All right. We got YouTube.
Trusty handy dandy
We ready?
iPad.
Handy dandy. All right, let's do it. We rolling.
What up, friends? We haven't been here together doing a live podcast in a little bit. Had a little change of plans, so we're gonna go live today. So as you guys join in, I'm gonna get my iPad set up. I probably should have done this beforehand, but you can tell how planned and everything.
We're usually planned though.
I'm all over the place. Me and my buddy Joe, my business partner, we were talking about that before. Like, we are two different people. I'm like all over the place, and it has its benefits. I'm a little ADHD, which I think is
Right.
kind of a gift in some ways. And then he's the way more like methodical and like precise with certain things, and so that kind
Are
of thing.
you? Would you say he's like more, like I don't want to say schedule, but maybe like regimented? Like he has like a certain
Yes.
set like regimen. He does things like
Uh-huh.
always put your right leg through your underwear first. Or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so
It's
Joe,
silly.
Joe, he's more like this. Joe is a guy where he's more regimented, has a little bit more structure to things. Now, me on the other hand, I'm kind of like where I look at things and I'm like, I have these 5 things that I need to get done, whatever it might be, and I'm like, I don't care when I get them done, I just got to get them done.
Right, right.
And then like I was actually talking to my guy that does videos, Spartan, and Spartan and I were talking about like Spartan's very regimented. Like
Yeah.
even more so than Joe.
Wow.
Right? He's like everything has to be like a schedule and stuff like that. Whereas me, I'm friggin' all over the place. And Spartan was laughing. He goes, I don't know how you do it. He's like, it would drive me nuts. But for me, it just works. Like I randomly change up my schedule from time to
Yeah,
time because I get kind of bored with it. I'm like, I don't want to do this in the morning. I want to do it at nighttime. If you go through and watch some of my videos, there's times where my hair is really nice. That's in the morning. And that's when I'm doing videos in the morning. And then like if it's really messed up, that means it was right after the evening training. And then sometimes the hair is like a little messed up. That means it was afternoon time.
Gotcha.
So like I'll do videos either morning, afternoon, and night. And it really depends on how I feel. And then like, I do all my like business work or whatever, sometimes in the morning, sometimes midday, sometimes just whenever.
When do your best videos come out? When do you think that is? Time of day?
I don't know. It honestly, I've stopped trying to pick it out. I think a lot of times it's probably nighttime, like that the videos come out that probably the best just because like I'm so wide awake after training.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny because usually after I'm done with the video and my blood, my blood pressure and everything is coming down from the post training. Like I'm literally like, ready to go to sleep because I'm just
Yeah.
like, all right, I did my video, I trained, I'm ready to go tonight, I'm ready to go to sleep. But recently I've been doing the videos midday because after training's over, I've been doing some meditation, and so the meditation after training with the stretching and stuff, man, that's money. Like
It is. It's awesome.
woo,
It's really good.
Yeah, like I did one. It was an hour long movement meditation. Like what was it, Thursday, and maybe Wednesday? It was Wednesday, and dude, I felt amazing. I felt fantastic.
What exactly is a movement meditation?
There's different ways that you can go about it, and I'm not going to get too deep into it right now, but basically it's where you do a meditation that works in tandem with some sort of movement or some sort of music and things like that. So,
Yeah.
so basically what happens is, think about like when people do a sitting meditation, people are like, they're fidgety. Like I remember like having some guys do like just a 10 to 12 minute seated meditation with your
Right.
eyes closed. It's really difficult for some people. They get really
Yeah.
fidgety. So you can use that fidgetiness and you do a repeating movement of some sort. In some cases, there's different ways to do this. But with one, it's a repeating movement. So basically, you get this movement to where it's literally like you're just doing it constantly, and then you forget about it, but it stills the mind. It's almost like if you go on a walk and you have that clear-headedness because you're just walking. Or like I remember I would have these really deep thoughts when I would mop the mats after jiu-jitsu because I'm doing this repetitive task.
Yeah, kind of like a rhythmic.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, like meditation or like breathing or yeah, it's something I don't know, puts you in like almost a trance or some sort.
And that's the idea. And then so you combine. So if you can combine this with exercise, like do a hard training session.
Yeah.
Like we had a pretty good one on Wednesday. I was going for takedowns and stuff, and so I was done. I was exhausted.
Right.
And then I did the rhythmic movement with the breathing, and then a dead stillness afterwards. Dude, it's like boom.
It's awesome.
It's good stuff.
Well, Chewy, wanted to touch on today. You had a YouTube.
Yes.
Or not YouTube, email.
So today's video, like the podcast, we're going to start off with, obviously with the podcast guys, we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about some stuff, and then afterwards, if you guys have some questions, little Q&A, we'll do that for a few minutes. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was and it was funny. I did the email on one conversation, but then I was in the gym this morning talking about it to the guys, and we've actually in my gym we've got 2 purple belts that are like leg locky type people, right? Like they're leg lockers that invert, and they have other things that they can do, but they're really good at inverting. And you'll be passing their guard, and all of a sudden they got your ankle and they put you in a heel hook. You know the type. And so I talked about that, like, in one of my messages in emails that went out. And then this morning I went to the gym, and I realized that day they were both focused on the wrestling. They were both wrestling, and they both kind of had the same idea. They're like, look, I want to be able to, beat some of the wrestlers. I want to be able to like defeat these wrestlers when I'm rolling with them and in competition, whatever it might be. And so in turn, they're like, I'm going to become the wrestler a little bit. I'm going to wrestle. And that's a really good idea. And I think about that all the time, because I think about, like, I always go back to the story over and over again because it's such a good one. And I think it illustrates this, there's Carlos. Carlos just joined the group. If you guys see him, he's one of my purple belt leg lockers. He's also strong as can be. He's like sturdy. You grab a hold of him, it's like a brick. But so, like, when I was a white belt, initially I came into the gym, I wanted nothing to do with the guard. I was like, I'm not playing the guards for bitches. Just being up front, guards for bitches. You're laying on your back. Yeah. Like, I'm a wrestler, I'm gonna be on top. That was my thought. Yeah. And then I went into tournaments, and I would get put on my back by a better wrestler, and I would get just screwed over. And then sometimes I would like go against guard players that were really good, and I didn't know I couldn't pass their guard. Yeah. And so, I was like, this sucks. But I would try to get my guard passing better. But eventually my coach, as the story goes, as many of you have often heard, I went to training, and my coach was like, you're going to be on your back. And he kept me there for like 3 months. I did not get to get on. I never got on top unless I swept. Yeah. And what was interesting is eventually when he allowed me to play whatever positions I wanted to, imagine that. I was really good at guard and top, and even better at guard passing. It's funny because as I focused on this guard, this 3 months of guard sweeping and submitting, my guard passing got better. When I got back on top, even though it had not been the focus, it was better. And the reason was, and I remember this because as soon as someone would like grab my arm, I was like, ooh, they're going for an arm bar. And I would pull my elbow back. Or if I felt them trying to push one arm and pull one arm out, I was like, they're going for a triangle. Yeah. I knew what they were up to, so then I could defend against it. And then that would keep me out of trouble and give me more time to pass. And it allowed me to be way more comfortable in the pocket. You know what I mean? Because like when I'm a head forward passer. And so if you're going to be a head forward passer, you got to be comfortable in that really tight range where you're in danger a lot. You have to know how to keep your hands and stuff out of danger. So it made me more comfortable there. And then anytime I think about like any type of situation where I've had to get better at something, I like try to, it's even like years ago when I was doing mixed martial arts, I was a good grappler and I wanted to get better at striking. I didn't, and starting to learn this lessons, I did not get into striking thinking I just want to get a little striking so I can be good to whatever. I was like, no, I'm going to be a boxer. I friggin' hate sparring with boxers because they light me up and they make me, my jaw's sore, my head feels all crappy afterwards, whatever, because it took some shots. So I was like, I'm going to go be a boxer. So like I would do boxing in its complete pure form. I wasn't trying to like learn boxing for MMA or do just enough to get by. I was like, I'm going to be a boxer. And I loved boxing. And then there was interesting. And I remember there was interesting because then I would go out sometimes and spar with boxers and kickboxers who that's their thing. That's what they did. Right. And I would do fine. Yeah. I remember there was one time I went to this training session with like a bunch of good kickboxers and boxers, and this is like 2009 or something when I was still like really into fighting. I was having my first pro fight and all that stuff. And I remember like I was in the mix with everyone. I wasn't the best guy there for sure, but I was in the mix. And I remember thinking like, damn, like 3 years ago, I couldn't box to save my life. Now I'm moving around. I feel pretty damn good, and I thought that was awesome. And even in my MMA fights, I remember being able to change it up where I could box and I could take downs and stuff like that, and I could mix them up, and it made my takedowns and my grappling better because this person wasn't able to simply worry about grappling. They had to worry about me punching them in the face, right, something like that. So it's really helped out, and it's one of those things again where you have to be multifaceted in everything you do because again, you're not always going to be able to decide that this is what you're going to do. I thought I was going to wrestle all the time, but a wrestler put me on my back. So I had to learn the guard. Right. Because I just had to. And then when I was fighting, I remember there was one time where it was, this is 2008. I weighed in at 205 and that was supposed to be the cutoff. This guy weighs in at 211, and when I'm talking about a 211, I'm talking about he was jacked 211, like shredded to bits.
So he's already been cutting weight.
Dude, I don't know. I don't think he cut weight. I think he decided to show up at 211, and this is old timey stuff. Like we're like it was still like think of it like the Ultimate Fighter was only 2 or 3 years old. You know, so this is like still new. This is like we were fighting in a. The original venue that it was supposed to be in had like something had happened, so they couldn't do it there, and so we fought at this 4-H center in the middle of like country bound Indiana.
That's awesome.
And like literally, if the ring was a raised ring, the room was only rated for like maybe 250 people. You had about 500 people just crammed in there like sardines. There was no warm-up room. We were all warming up in a corner. I could see them warming up and they could see me warming up, which is
it's amazing.
It sucks because you want to have like a little bit of privacy, but you can't. And then I remember like, and it wasn't even cool because it was like, usually when the fighters come out, there's like an entrance. There was no entrance. It was like this fighter comes from this corner over and there on the side, and they just walk into the ring.
Yeah.
But I remember the ring was so tall and the ceiling fans were so low that like if you wanted to, you could just jump up and touch one.
What?
Like, so I was like, oh, this is crazy. But I went in there and fought this guy, and he's big and jacked. And I remember sparring with him one time years ago before this fight, and he had better boxing than me. So I was like, I don't really want to box with the guy because he'll swing and knock me the hell out. So I remember I stayed on the outside and just chopped at his legs, and then he like started reaching, took him down, and I just punched him one time, and that he tapped. That was it.
That was awesome.
I was like, okay, good. I was like, and I remember in that fight, dude, I was like looking at that dude, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this guy because he's hard to take down most of the time. He was a couple years ago. He can beat me on the feet. And he's shredded. He's strong too. So, but it worked out because by chopping the legs and using the kicks that I had that I learned from kickboxing, doing kickboxing,
right?
It worked out. So
yeah, I always say Nick Pabone, one of our lapel guys.
Yeah,
I always remember the story. Like we did pass defend rounds, and basically it was like 3 or 4 guys on the mats, and then they start from bottom, and we come off the side. Just if they sweep you or submit you, you go back in line, and then you just keep rotating. And so you're always so adamant about us being just like, you better go. Don't be sitting that guard. Don't be sitting. So, Nick swept me like a couple times, like with his lapel, and just because I like to do like a little, I like to do like a split leg kind of pass.
Yeah, and you're walking right
when
into
you do
it.
that, you're doing you're walking right into the lapel game, and so he swept me, and then like he did it again, and I was like, shit. And so like my whole thing was like, how am I going to figure out how to first of all defend that, and then figure out how I can be effective or whatever. So, me and him would start playing with lapels and all the time. And same thing, I got hit with another lapel technique a few months ago. Yeah. And I right away was like, all right, I got to figure it out. How do I? And then I started playing with the lapel myself, just because I feel like if you can do it yourself, I mean, you can definitely, you're going to have a better understanding of the technique.
That's the idea.
And you put yourself where you kind of don't want to be. But you're creating opportunities because you could create different avenues to go to a position you want to go to. If you end up, if you don't like playing lapel, but you do, you could maybe get them to your better position that way.
Yeah.
Like you said, you could have used your guard to sweep them and get on top, and then you're in the position you want to be on.
Yeah, I mean,
of a wrestler.
And that's the thing, is like you want to learn everything in its entirety. You don't want to go into something where I just want to learn just enough. You want to learn the whole thing, because when you learn the whole thing, you really understand it. And then when it comes time to combat it, you can use it. And then hell, you never know. This is true with anything. I can tell everybody this, from the bottom of my heart, from who I am. There's been so many times where I kind of got into a particular type of move in jiu-jitsu or guard or whatever it might be. And initially I kind of wrote it off. I'm like, I'm not going to like this, but I'll give it a try. And I gave it a try. I'm like, I kind of like this. Yeah. This is kind of cool. I kind of dig this. You know what I mean? Hell, my butterfly guard, that came about because of that. I remember my original coach showed me a butterfly sweep, and I'm like, I'm not going to use this butterfly sweep. And then I went to this tournament where I was up against this wrestler, and sure enough, guess what I was using? Fucking butterfly sweeps. Yeah. So it's like, it's about, and the reason that I titled this video "Become the Grappler You Hate" is because a lot of times when you roll with those people that give you the most trouble, there's growth there.
100%.
You may not like it, but there's growth there. Years ago, just one last example, we had a wrestler in the gym who was a stud college wrestler, right? Wrestled at a big gym in our school and was like a monster. He would like if I made one wrong move, he would tabletop me and dump me right on my head. Now, what did I do? I was leading up to a fight. I knew I was going up against a guy who was a pretty tough wrestler. I got my buddy Tim. I was like, Tim, let's wrestle. And him and I would get together on Sundays and wrestle, just straight wrestling. And I mean, by the end of it,
He's tough. I remember.
What was interesting though is by the end of it, him and I could go back and forth. He raised my wrestling to a new level because I had to. Because I was going like when we first started wrestling, he was just dumping me left and right. And then as we continued to wrestle, I started being able to catch him in things like takedowns and stuff, and he would get me down too.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this one day where we it was back when my buddy Brent was training with us and he was getting ready for a Bellator fight.
Yeah.
And Bellator had like this camera crew there to record Brent's training sessions, and we had a big wrestling training session going. And I remember like me and Tim, you know what I mean? The cameras are on us and stuff, and we're in the background of Brent's video just slamming each other and going. And I remember like there were a few guys that were watching us like, dude, that was like the baddest like roll session we've ever seen, because like he took me down, I got back up, I took him down, and we probably had like a scramble that was like a minute and a half too long. And then afterwards we were both just laying on the ground exhausted. But the idea is that he was frustrating as hell to deal with.
Right.
You know, especially like in front of all my students, I had this random wrestler come in and he starts dumping me on my back. But I started wrestling with him. I got better. Like I made a lot of progress in my wrestling, because then I would go to tournaments and I'd wrestle with people, and I learned, and I'd listen to Tim and things like that, and took the advice that he gave. I would wrestle with people in tournaments and be like, they're strong, but they're not like Tim. And I boom double leg them.
Yeah, they're nothing.
Exactly. And so for you guys that are out there, the big idea is that when you roll with someone, especially if you don't like them, especially if you, and I mean like you might like them personally, but you might hate their style. You might be like, dude, I cannot pass this guy's guard.
Right.
Every time I roll with him, he catches me in a triangle, whatever. Roll with that guy more, and then try to learn what they're doing. Don't just like roll with them and just do it over and over again. Like quiz them. Like, what are you doing? Show me show me your tricks. Show me your tricks. Let me use them, because one, the tricks might work for you. Those techniques might be usable for you, but if nothing else, you'll get a better detailed understanding of what they're doing. So this way you'll be able to stop it. It's a beautiful lesson, and it's something that you can take from, jiu-jitsu. Hell, you can take that in life.
Right.
Like when you get into like situations where like, maybe like some particular, like, for instance, some of the stuff that we do internet-wise for the gym business used to frustrate the piss out of me. I used to just like want to throw throw my computer out the window.
Right.
Now I know how to do it really well.
Yeah.
Because I learned it. I started to study it. I bought courses on it, things like that. I studied it just like I do jiu-jitsu, and now I can do it pretty well, and it's helped the business a lot. So
here's a question on like if you're picking somebody's brain.
yeah.
In general, like say leg locks is an easy example. Do you think it's better to learn how to apply a leg lock or learn how to defend it first when you're learning? And it might be different for everything. Just that example.
I think it's best to learn both.
Okay.
To me, it's like, it's good to learn both. It's good to learn how you apply it, and it's good to learn how to defend it. Like, you know what I mean? Like when Chad and I, this is a great example. Like when Chad and I, several years ago, Chad got caught in a leg lock. We actually took a team to a little super fight thing, and like almost the whole team got leg locked. Right. And it was like, damn, we got fucked up by leg locks. And like, it would be matches where we were kind of like killing them, and we got caught in leg locks. Yeah. So afterwards, what did we do? Well, we started just diving into the leg locks, and we started not just doing them to defend them, but we'd be like, let's hear how to use them. And like, Chad's gone to several tournaments and used leg locks.
Yeah, it's a big part of his game.
Yeah, he's good at them, and he's a sponge with them. And I have a good leg lock game. I mean, it's okay. I'll say relative to everything else, it's usable. I don't use it as much because it's just I don't need to, but it's there if I need it. And like during rolling sessions, I'll roll with guys and I'll catch people in leg locks all the time. Because during rolling, you're just having fun. In competition, I don't use it as much. But I was learning it not so much just to do one or the other. I was using it just to learn the whole thing. Like, how does this work? Like, I think honestly, what was more interesting to me was learning how the leg positions can transition, because you can go from different leg lock positions and switch back and forth to the one to the other. So then it becomes just like it would jiu-jitsu on the upper body, where you move from one position to the next in this sort of chain where you're basically just chipping away at the person, and you play that cat and mouse game where you basically whittle down their options until boom, it's like, I got you. And I mean, that was like, I saw that when I would roll with Joe Bays, where we would roll together, and it was just like, he was so calm, and as I'm moving, he's just going from one step to the other. You could tell he'd been there before. It was just like me with the Kimura. And then before I know it, he's like, gotcha. And I was like, all right.
I've rolled with him before. And it was just like, it's very humbling.
Yeah.
Just the level, just like the level. And it's like, I'm okay at jiu-jitsu. I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I have a brown belt. I feel like I do decent. And then Joe, and he's like, and he's just such a master at one aspect of the game. And
Yeah.
it's just like, holy shit. And he exploits that
Mm-hmm.
to a way like, no matter what you do, I'm gonna get you into my realm,
Right.
into my game. I'm gonna make you play my game, and when we play my game, it's like a white belt against a black belt. That's how good.
And the thing that I think is really interesting when you watch it is, like, Joe will not injure you. Like, you'll get caught in a leg lock and he'll have it, but he'll hold it and he has good positional control. And I
Yeah.
think because I think a lot of times people are so afraid of leg locks, and I can tell everybody honestly, I've rolled with a lot of good leg lockers. I've begun to play them like a lot. I teach them every week. I've never been hurt by one. Like, I mean, I was like, I've had some soreness
Yeah,
before. Like
yeah.
one time Chad put me in an ankle lock and he got a little sore. But like, I've never really been hurt by it because, like, one, you roll with good training partners that don't crank anything, and you understand the idea of not cranking. But also, just like you wouldn't crank any other submission, right? You don't get someone's arm and once it's locked out, you don't just keep going. You
Right.
stop. So you're understanding how to apply it properly. But then also, like, with with the thing, learning to tap often. Like, if it's tight, don't fight. If it's tight, don't fight.
Hey.
It's like a thing. But if it's like tight and you're caught, you can't move, tap. Just let it be.
Right.
And then play the game again instead of, like, having this thing where you're gonna try to keep fighting. Like, dude, you're done. You're caught. Just that's that.
Yeah, I mean, it comes back to being, being humbled and being, I don't know. I think it's a way to take. More people are accepting. I think now, as you get to be an upper belt, I think maybe you get more accepting of like what a tap means. It just kind of means like reset in a way. Like, don't take it as. I mean, I guess you do take it as a loss, and sometimes, especially if you are against a lower belt, you'd be
Yeah.
less likely to tap. I'm
I
sure.
guess.
Yeah.
I'll tap out all the time. To me, I think about it like this. Like, it's a frigging game.
Yeah.
What we do is a game, 100%.
Cat and mouse, baby.
It's a game where, because here the definition of a game is where you have more than one player, right? And there's a winner and a loser, and there's rules that define it. So we have rules that define our conduct on the mat. We have more than one player, right? And then we have a way to win and lose.
Right.
Okay. Like, people say, you don't lose, you learn. No, you win and lose. That's the way that it works. Because guess what? When you leave the gym, you feel pretty damn good when you won your matches or
Yep.
your rolls.
Yep.
When you went into the gym and you got crushed, you don't feel so good. There's nothing wrong with that though, because it's like, it's the feedback. What I'm doing is working. Hell yeah, let's do it. And then when you lose, you do learn. And you learn because you're like, man, it sucks to lose.
Yep.
It doesn't feel so good to get in there and be like, none of my stuff worked. So I'm going to learn, because that pain associated with it is going to make me make a change. Because as we know, humans do what? We procrastinate. We don't do things when we're supposed to. But when shit gets painful, we make some changes.
Yep.
So when you go into the gym and all of a sudden you're like, your game's not working anymore, like all your buddies are shutting down your triangle attack that was working for a while, and you go out of the gym like, man, I got crushed today. You're going to go through your head while you're driving home and be like, so how'd they stop that thing? Man, I need to work on something. I need to try something else. And then you come back to the gym motivated. I mean, dude, some of my most motivated periods of my training have come when I was like, come back off of a loss in a competition, or like when like I would have a guy in the gym that was just crushing me. I remember like when Kyle, one of my old coaches and training partner, Kyle Cannon, he used to destroy me with his guard, like mercilessly destroy me. And it was so frustrating because like I had a good guard passing game, but man, running into him was just like, he messed me up. And I remember like going home being like, all right, I got to figure this guard out. And there was like 2 years, like a year and a half or whatever, where I was like, I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah.
And I was so motivated by it, and it raised me to a new level.
Right.
And I think this is the thing. People have this weird like thing about competitiveness. Competitiveness is a good thing. Winning and losing is a good thing because it makes you better. If you went in and there was never a winner and a loser, like, you wouldn't be driven to do it. You wouldn't be driven to push yourself because that risk's not there. It's what makes it fun, because there is a winner and a loser.
Well, I think that like you can translate to like kids sports. Like they like, oh, we're gonna some kids sports, like they stop keeping score.
God, dude.
And
The
look,
hell?
I had worked in
so
the sports
weird.
department when I was younger, like in high school and in college. And like, I mean, the younger kids, they don't really understand. But like when they
Yeah.
get a little older and they understand, they're like, oh, we're not gonna keep score. And you're like,
It's so lame.
okay, look, you got to know how to win. Number one, you can be a fucking shitty winner.
Yes, you can.
And you can be a shitty loser. It's
Yeah.
good. It's a good thing to learn how to be good at both.
Mm-hmm.
Good loser, good winner. You know, a good loser may be somebody, okay, you get disappointed, maybe you cry, you get upset, but what do you do for that? You may quit, say, okay, fuck it, I'm going to quit soccer because I suck at it or my team is bad. Or you say, all right, I'm going to pick it up. I'm going to
Let's get better.
Get better. I'm going to go practice, whatever. You know, that's, I think it's good. It's good to experience that because life is about that.
Life,
I mean,
dude,
life is a lot of loss.
Life's ready to beat your ass, dude. I mean, like, you know as well as I do, man, like life is ready to beat you down 24/7 if you let it.
Yep.
So, I mean, this is the whole thing. To me, sports and martial arts and competitions and all these different things, right? I think that one of the most transcendent things that they give you is that ability to experience failure and you go, screw it, I just keep going. And then eventually you get over that failure and you experience success. And it's like, wow, I did something and I got better. What if I took that same mindset towards everything?
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, then it's like, huh, well, what else? I mean, just like, you know, I've talked about this before on the channel, like, dude, like, the idea of like sometimes like when I go to competitions, it's not so much now, but especially years ago, I would go in and I would always be nervous and I would always like second guess myself and doubt myself. You know, but I knew that deep down, like I always outperformed. But like there were guys that I used to like go up against that I thought were going to crush me.
Yeah.
But when I would go out there and I would just put myself into the fray, I always did better. And a lot of times I would beat them and I would be like, I can't believe I just beat that guy. You know what I mean? And then there would be, you know, I mean, I had to. My mind was not in sync with what I was capable of, right? And a lot of times it's like that when we go out and do things in the world with maybe you start a business, maybe you're trying to talk to a girl and you don't think you're like attractive enough, whatever bullshit things going on. So then you just say, I'm going to do it. And a lot of times it's like you don't realize what you're capable of until you actually try it. You know what I mean? Like maybe you go out and start this business. Like I remember like doing the business stuff. I was like, I don't know how to run a business. I fucking learned, you know, and I had my buddy Joe to help me. You know, Joe was a huge part of that. And so it's like, figure it out. Like, because if I throw myself into the fray, I'll figure it out.
Right.
And there were a lot of little hiccups and failures along the way, but you get better.
You learn from them.
And I think that was a directly because of the training in jiu-jitsu, because I ended up like, again, I was not a natural. I sucked at first. I sucked in wrestling. But I worked hard and I was willing to just, you know, continuously put forth consistent effort and stay focused on what I was doing.
Yeah. It's a lot of mental strength there. Like if, you know, you hear about like wrestlers going, oh, and whatever, win one match. And then like the next year they're like state and then they're like state champ and whatever. I was like, I mean, how do you turn that around? Like, I mean, sometimes you lose so much, you just believe that like you're just destined to lose. You're never going to win. But I've had a little
That's if you give your power away.
Right.
If you give your power and say I'm a loser, well then you're a fucking loser.
Right.
You know?
Or yeah, I mean it's just mental. So much of it's probably mental. I mean, it's what you're talking about.
It's like when people like to me, I mean, I'm not saying that there are people that are definitely clinically depressed, but I'll hear people say, I'm just super depressed right now. Like, now you're depressed, absolutely. But like, what if you just said, man, I'm having a funk right now. It's gonna pass, but I'm gonna get out of it. You know, I mean, because I've been.
You got to do something though. You can't just. I don't know if just sitting there and waiting is gonna do it. You got to do something. You got to make a change.
But what I mean is like, if you go, I'm depressed, right? You're fucking gonna be depressed, and that's the way it's gonna be. But if you're like, you know what, I'm in a funk right now. I'm gonna go do something to get out of this funk. If you don't identify with it, when you identify with the outcome, you're fucked, right?
Yeah.
So if you lose and you say I'm a loser. Because you've identified with it, you become identified with it. That's who you are. You're screwed. You know, it's even if a winner, being a good winner, like I'm a winner. Like you identify with always being a winner. Well, you're going to lose eventually, and when you lose, it ain't going to be so pretty. You know what I mean? Like those circumstances, those outcomes change. You've got to be able to be fluid with them and just be like, look, I won this match. Good. What did I do right? Let's keep that going. Right. I lost. What did I do wrong? Let's fix it. And let's keep moving forward. Right.
Yeah. I mean, God, get deep. All right, we do some questions.
Let's do some questions.
Let's do some questions before we
hyper on coffee. So I don't drink a lot of coffee anymore in the midday because I tend to train better without it. I drink coffee in the morning, but I don't drink it later up. What are you laughing about?
The people are funny.
All right, I'm gonna look through some of this stuff.
Somebody said, hold on. They said I'm already the grappler I hate.
Yeah, see that's funny, Alex.
That's awesome.
Let's see here.
Guys, shoot us some questions real quick. We'll get
I'm gonna read through these things that you guys put up here, and then the lurker, smelly with bad breath. Man, I'm not talking about smelly people. You guys said this in one of the emails. I said that
smelly.
Yeah, because they say become the grappler you hate, and they're like, oh, you mean like the smelly one with bad breath? I'm not talking about stinky or long hair.
I don't want to be a super aggressive douche that always trying to hurt teammates. 36.
Oh,
That's
man.
great.
Fucking love you guys. You guys crack me up. Bowel movement meditation. You guys are sons of bitches.
Okay, so I don't. This doesn't.
I'm still looking through all the comments to earlier because they're cracking me up.
Chewy, do you think this is okay? So I think this is Eden. Eden Beck asks or makes a statement. I think for bigger, stronger guys who smash lots of people are not getting promoted as fast as normal, skinnier people. I think all my partners are getting blue belts while I'm still a 3-stripe white belt. Any truth to that, or do you think it's? I mean, it could be a thing of skill. I mean, I don't know if it's a skill.
So at Eden Beck. So I think so you're asking if basically bigger, stronger guys get held back a little bit more.
Maybe.
So you know what? I'll tell you this. If let's say you're in my gym, Eden, and you're a big guy, a big strong guy, you're just crushing people from top, passing their guard, putting that squeeze on them, putting on that merciless side control pressure. If I never saw you use guard, I wouldn't promote you. Because I'd be like, dude, where's your guard game? Like, you got to be able to play. You can't simply be you can't be just like single faceted. You have to have like, I got to be like, you're doing jiu-jitsu. Like years ago, like I had a guy that was a friggin' phenomenal wrestler. He'd take everybody down. I watched him smash black belts before. He actually submit black belts with headlocks and stuff. But he didn't play guard. I'm like, I'm not going to promote you if you don't play guard. You're doing a great job of wrestling and staying on top and squeezing heads, but like, I want to see you do jiu-jitsu.
Right.
Like, let me see you like escape mountain. Let me see you play guard and take someone's back. Like, let me see you become a grappler because, you know, I'm not saying that you won't focus on one thing or the other, but you need to learn jiu-jitsu. And to me, that's going to break through because to me, here's what I think. If you can't get out of your comfort zone to play stuff that you're not necessarily great with right now, that to me tells you that you're kind of either insecure or you're too attached with winning all the time. So you need to break through because it has to be a learning mentality. Because if I see you trying to learn stuff, then I'm like, he's good. Because that person can then continue to learn from years and years and years because you're not fixated on just doing one thing because you have to win. You're like fixated on like, I got to keep bringing new stuff in because that's what's going to take you the long road in jiu-jitsu. That's what's going to propel you is that constant learning, that constant, like I'm trying new stuff all the time. So that's what I think.
No, that makes sense. Like I think we had a similar situation, but kind of the opposite. We had a smaller guy that had a really, really good guard.
Yeah, I'm not going to promote
it. And it would triangle everybody. It was really good, very flexible, but he didn't have a good passing game, and you held them from getting promoted.
Yeah, you know,
same thing. It's all about evolution of your game. You're willing to learn. Because I think that when you're a blue belt, you got to have a little sample of it. You got to be able to kind of start tasting. You said it's like the buffet belt, right? So if you don't show tendencies to want to learn things as a white belt, then maybe as a blue belt, you're going to get more fixated on a certain game. You're not going to evolve.
Absolutely. And the guy that he's talking about, I remember we were talking one time, and I gave him his blue belt because he was good enough to play that game.
He's very good.
And he was finally playing a little bit of guard passing. So I was like, yeah, guard passing is decent enough to be a blue belt. But he left the gym, he came back, whatever, and he was playing, playing a little bit, and he was asking me what I thought about him getting his purple belt. And I told him, I was like, man, like your freaking bottom game is so crazy. It's good, but you can't pass the guard for anything. Like I could sweep him with no hands. It's like you got to work on that. You've got to become that type of grappler that at least has that ability. Because again, you just never know. Like what happens if you? And again, it's just about learning the whole facet. You're not going to be great everywhere, but you definitely want to be proficient enough to have it. Because again, let's say that you want to become an instructor someday. You know, you don't want to be like, hey guys, like I don't know how to pass guard, but I'm gonna show you how to play guard, right? You know, or hey guys, like I'm a big guy and I don't know how to play off my back, so we're gonna always work guard passing. You want to be able to teach your students in the future. You want to like gather up so much so that this way, when you have someone who's like, hey Eugene, I want some help from you, you have something to give them instead of being like, I got like these 5 moves and that's all I got. Like maybe you won a lot of tournaments, but you did it on 5 moves and you got nothing else to show. It's like, well, I mean. You're only going to be good to anyone that's going to just be like you. Like, if, same body type, whatever, but anybody else that falls out of that sort of spectrum, well, you're no help to them.
Yeah. So, I think I know the answer to this question, Chewy, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Okay.
Abyssus 15?
Abyssus.
Hey, Chew, what's the main thing a white belt to focus on? Is it learning to defend all submissions and guard retention, or is it to focus on one thing and practice it 100 times?
Well, I think that, for the most part, you start with survival. Just be able to roll and not get submitted a million times. Be consistent. That's what that's more than anything else. Just be consistent because literally you're in the it's the toughest time when you're a white belt. It's literally like when you're getting that snowball and you're
Yeah.
trying to like get it built up to something. Like once the snowball's big enough, you roll it, it just packs on snow easy.
Right.
But that beginning point where it's really tough to get going, that's really what you're dealing with. You're trying to get yourself some forward momentum. So your biggest thing is stay consistent and train. It's so hard for people to accept that because people want like a definite answer. And when you tell people, hey, keep training, they hate it because they're like,
Right.
I want something more tangible.
No direction there. Yeah.
You know, but the thing is that what you're really doing is you're developing yourself, and self-development cannot happen overnight, and it's not always going to happen because you focused on one little specific thing. So be consistent, right? And then from there, focus on your survival. So focus on being able to retain your guard, being able to like stay on top or doing whatever it is you're doing. And then you'll naturally go through this progression where you go from getting smashed constantly towards now you survive and you're not getting submitted. That's good. And then eventually you're able to maybe get some offense going. And then eventually towards like your four stripe, this is kind of to me where I see four stripers. You start being offensive where you start submitting a lot of the white belts and giving the blue belts trouble. That's kind of where I see that 3-4 stripe range where you're becoming very offensive with your movements. And so I would say that the first beginning for the new guys, survive and be consistent. That's your goals.
Yeah. Learn everything, I guess. It's a way of putting it. Chewy, we talked about this earlier. Guam Tech asks, was wondering about which Charlotte's Web you guys use, normal or extra strength. Been using normal lately, and it really seems to help. I think, I don't know which one's stronger. One's got like 23 milligrams, and then the other one's got like double that.
Yeah.
I use the stronger, just because I feel like my tolerance is more used to that. And you use like the smallest dose, and like
Yeah, like for me right now, like I do the Charlotte's Web, and it's funny because I continuously do it. Like someone recently gave me a sample of their CBD. It was a friend of mine, and I used it, and like I just didn't feel anything. And like I'm not saying you're not gonna feel like whoa CBD, but like I'm so damn sensitive to my body that like I can feel a difference between things. And so I was using it, and it was supposed to be a higher dose. I was like, let me try this out, and my sleep was not the same. I wasn't sleeping as well. So I was like, well, let me try this. So I went back onto my, I had the chocolate mint Charlotte's Web. It's kind of, I think it tastes good. If you don't like chocolate mint, you may not like it. You can get their oil one, but I used the chocolate mint one, and when I used it, again, went back to the dose, I felt great. My sleep was good again, and I typically only use like, because one milliliter, 1 ml is like 23 milligrams. I'll use like a full dose sometimes, but sometimes I won't use a full dose.
Right.
But I can tell you that like, man, like when I use that full dose, like, dude, I am out and I sleep like a rock. Like I'll sleep, and it's funny because like when I get up in the morning, it's this weird thing where I'm a little groggy at first, but then I just know that I'm going to be groggy for a few minutes, and I get up and I take my cold shower, alternate with hot and cold, take a contrast shower, and then it's like I'm like awake for the rest of the day. I don't get tired. I'm like let's go do this.
Yeah.
Because the sleep was so good. So. I use the chocolate mint, the regular strength.
I think it's the whatever the lower dosage. You use.
23.
I use
what it is.
the stronger dosage, but I like it in the morning actually.
You like it in the morning?
I take it in the morning because it's kind of like
Well, that can
sometimes if I get up and I'm kind of like just
Well, you get kind of anxious, don't you?
yeah, sometimes like but I think like I have a lot to get done in the morning because I get the kids up and get ready for work and all that stuff and make sure everything's so it kind of helps me just kind of just level out and I'm just kind of like boom, I'm just doing my thing.
Okay.
It doesn't make me sleepy or anything like that. Like I do actually take it at night as well.
See, I take my dose at night, and then I feel good.
I take it in the morning before I head to work, and I feel kind of more like, all right, I'm ready for my day. It just chills me out. So, yeah.
Yeah, if you guys, I mean, shameless plug, but it's what I use, so whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just sharing with you guys.
good.
If you guys want to use it, you can go to Charlotte's Web. What is it?
charlottesweb.com, and promo code is Chewjitsu10, and you'll get 10% off of your total purchase price. It's good.
And it supports the podcast.
Yeah.
If you guys want to use something else, use it, but that's the one that Eugene and I have been using for a while. It's one
Yeah,
I like,
use whatever works for you, honestly. We're just kind of letting you all know what we like to use. So, let's see. Somebody's Ultra Squid says, thank you for your videos, Chewy. Helped me a lot. Just started Luta Livre.
Luta Livre, so the no-gi. Dig it.
So,
Chewy, do you think that you should get the grade you deserve or turn up and get promoted like most gyms and keep up? Harvey.
say I'm not understanding.
Harvey Cunt.
Oh,
God, you fucking names, dude. Chewy, do you think that you should get Chewy, do you think that you should get the grade you deserve or turn up and get promoted like most gyms? I don't. I think you mean like, should you get tested, or if you could reiterate your restate your question, Harvey, Mr. Cunt. I'm not really following you, so let me know what you mean.
Hold on. Okay, so here's a question Ryan Yoder asked. I think what he's trying to ask is a question about rolling with females. Is it offensive to even bring up to them to tell you if you're going too hard on the mat? Like if you're being too aggressive with them?
If the women bring it up?
If you, I guess maybe if you ask them, is it offensive to ask them if you're going, like say mid-roll, you're like, I guess ask them, am I going too hard?
I mean, so two things on this. One, you should always be able to communicate with your training partners. Super, super important. Like, you got to think about this, man. Like, you guys are in this dance of like play killing each other. So it's really beneficial to be able to talk to your training partners. Like, there's been times where I'll have guys in submission holds and I'm like, you all right? Or this morning, my one of the brown belts, Joe Meyer, we're rolling and literally we friggin' headbutted each other 3 times because we're both like wrestler types with our head forward. We're like pop, pop, pop.
Yeah.
And each time we would bust each other in the head, be like, you good, man? I'm good. Keep going. You know, like we're keep going, right? So we communicate with each other. But with women, I know it can be a thing. One thing is that you can definitely ask them. You can be like, hey, is you good? Like, you just to check on them, whatever, if you think there's something wrong. But a lot of times you can feel from their body language, right? Like, if you're rolling with a woman, and anyone really, not just a woman, just a man too. Like, you can roll with a smaller guy or a guy that you can crush, and you can feel this tenseness in their body where they're not even able to do anything. You know, maybe you back off the gas pedal a little bit, or even just ask them, "You good?" Like, just check on them, right? Just to be cool with them. You know, like I rolled with a woman today. She's a purple belt named Sarah, and she's tough.
Sarah's tough as shit.
Yeah, she's tough as shit. Like, and I've watched Sarah beat up like grown men.
Yeah.
You know. Now the thing is with Sarah, like when I'm rolling, I'm having a good roll with her. Like, I'm not gonna like, and I do this even with my guys. I don't put like, if I'm rolling with one of my guys that I know I can smash, I don't put on the same pressure that I would put on if I was going with like a 220-pound black belt.
Right.
I don't put that same pressure on them. I move around a little bit differently. And so I think that you should be able to either communicate with them or just be aware of how it feels when you roll with them. Do you feel like they're moving really sporadically or panicky? Do they feel like you're just having a good flow with them? How does it feel? Because a lot of times I think, and I really do believe this, you can find a lot about a person just by the way they roll, right? Because a lot of times there's been times where I've had guys that were like ultra chill, right, relaxed, and then I roll with them and it's like a bat out of hell. And then there's some times where I've got a guy that's like really hyper, really like just excited and very high energy, and then I roll with him and they're just chill. So it's like, to me, sometimes you get this, like even Eugene. Eugene is a great example. Eugene acts so nice. He And then another good example along the same lines, we have a guy named Jeff, has a great double leg, Jeff. And Jeff is so nice, and like he works in HR, and he's very together. And
Calm HR Jeff.
Very calm HR Jeff. Now, when you roll with Eugene or when you roll Jeff, it's intense.
No, it's not.
Bro, it is intense. Like Eugene's face, like he gets really intense and he's like coming at you for stuff. And then Jeff, his eyes look like he's like a shark in the water. Like when he's starting to roll and he's just like, how am I going to double like this guy? I'm going to find a way to send him through this wall. But both of those dudes have an intensity that's not visible on the surface. And so a lot of times you can, if you roll with someone, if you just feel to see how it rolls, everything, you'll kind of know whether or not they're having a good roll or if they're like freaking the hell out and you maybe need to ease off the gas pedal a bit.
True, yeah. Also roll differently with different people. So whenever I roll with you, I'm trying not to die.
I watch you, dude. No, you're intense, dude. You can say that whatever.
Dude, because this past Tuesday,
I watch you roll, bro.
This past Tuesday, look, I hadn't been back on the mats.
Why are you taking this as a negative thing? You got intensity, dog. It's good.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, like, I do roll different. I don't like try to crush lower belts unless they come after me. And then
here's a good one. This one comes from Brendan. He says, "Hey Chewy, what do you think about what Johanny said?" I know it's a fudge up. John Donaher said, and he said, I paraphrase, that roles should be with people that are significantly worse than you. So what I think he was getting at, and he said that he didn't say that was what it had to be all the time. He was it's something I've talked about on the channel for years, like, right, which is, you need to have roles where you are better, and then some roles where you're like right on par, maybe worse, or on a competitive level. And so the reason being is that when you roll with someone that's worse than you have a chance to play. You have a chance to work with things and just try new stuff. Like I consider it active drilling. Like if you guys have been on my website and downloaded the ebook that I have, the drilling ebook, there's a video and there's a book that talks about this, where consider it active drilling. There was also a good podcast where I was listening to Chris Moriarty talk about this. Like Chris Moriarty was a badass black belt. He was like one of the guys when I was like coming up. I used to love watching that guy because he was so good. And when he was talking about, he said he hated watching or he hated drilling. He hated drilling. He said it's so boring. He couldn't do it. But what he would do is he would learn a move, and then he would go do it all to all the like the lower belts, right? And so for me, like when I'm working on a new technique, I do it to all the lower belts, white belts, blue belts, purple, doesn't matter. I'm going to do it to all those guys. So instead of doing my A game, I'm doing all this stuff that I'm playing around with. And I have the ability to do this in a more forgiving environment. And it allows me to learn new stuff. And then I'll work it up into the black belt range where I can use it, effectively. Like, I mean, seriously, every move that I have in my game, I started off with using it against lower belts. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I think he was really getting at. And again, I didn't read the whole interview. I just remember seeing that the little excerpt. Now, you roll with competitive people because they keep you sharp, because then you're not in a forgiving environment. And that's where you really put things to that hard test to see how does your move work against the highest level of stress offered. So to me, the way that it works is you have a spectrum where you go from, learning a move for the very first time, and then you have on the other end of the spectrum using it against someone of the same or like similar skill level. Mm-hmm. And then you work your way up with drilling, repetition, and then you get into rolling with people of lower skill level, and then you work into rolling with people the same skill level, and so on. And so then you kind of close that gap instead of just saying, hey, yeah, I did 3 reps and now I'm going to try to use it against a black belt. It's like, nah, man, you're going to have a little bit more of a process than that. You're going to use it like you might learn it 3 times, drill it. Okay, now go drill it later on. Or if it's from a decent position, go try it with all the guys you're rolling with tonight. Some of the white belts, give that a try, that kind of thing. So,
a little super chat from Carl B.
Carl B. Let's see. Thank you, brother. Let's read his message real quick. He said, "Hey, Chewy, I'm a year in as a 2-stripe white belt. I feel bad crushing the newer white belts the same way I was crushed not too long ago. Does this make me soft, and am I holding myself back by not using the opportunity to dominate?" So Carl, like, here's the thing. Are you soft for having empathy for someone? You're not soft for having empathy. That's normal, right? The thing is you shouldn't look at it as a negative thing because, yeah, like, are you crushing? Maybe a little bit. But at the same time, what is that doing? That's sharpening them. Because if they walked into the gym and they're like, okay, they roll with Carl, who's been training for a little bit for a year, and they go in and they like all of a sudden submit you and you let them just walk all over you. Well, first off, they're going to be like, well, this stuff sucks. And 2, they're not going to get better. The whole reason someone gets better at jiu-jitsu is because they're forced to, because they get into the thing and all of a sudden they're like, I gotta figure out how to beat Carl because Carl's like crushing me. And so by sharpening them, right? Again, that's the whole idea of iron sharpens iron, right? You have to be made of tough stuff. The same stuff that I'm made of, you got to be made of. Otherwise, we can't make each other better. So when you're smashing them, you don't have to look at it as a bad thing. You just, and again, here's the difference. When you do this, you're not sadistic. You don't take pride in like, I fucked that dude up, right? You don't take pride in I smashed his face or like I bloodied his nose on accident. You don't take pride in the pain that you inflict. You just do what you need to do, right? Like when I go to competitions, even when I was doing MMA fights, I don't enjoy hurting people. But in MMA fights, I mean, I would hurt people sometimes. As soon as the ref called the whistle, blew the whistle, or said the fight was over, boom, I'm done. I'm done doing it. Mm-hmm. Even in jiu-jitsu tournaments, like as soon as I feel the guy tap, I let go of it. I don't get up and go crazy. I don't get up and scream. I just like, look, man, like I know what it's like to be the guy on the other side. I did what I had to do. I did my job, and I'm good. I'm done. And even in training, like I will crush people and smash people. But if for some reason, like they tap or whatever happens, I'll back off. I'll make sure they're good and I'll check on them. I don't take pleasure in hurting them. It's just, this is what the process is. And this is how you make people better, is by pushing them and getting them uncomfortable and forcing them to have to get better. And so this way, again, as people are probably above you, crushing you, you're crushing the other guys, you're going to make them better. You guys all work up together, pull each other up one by one. Then everybody kind of just does it. So I'm kind of rambling at this point, but what I would say is, again, you don't have to take pride in it or take pleasure in it, but you do what you got to do. And, just be the first person. Like if you get done submitting them, you get done crushing them, help them back up. Be the first person. Be the first person to submit them, but the first person to help them back up after the roll's over.
Yeah, and just tell them good job. Maybe you tell them something they're doing well that you notice they gave you a hard time with, or because I think you learn too by being able to dominate. You know that your positions are effective. But then, yeah, I mean, I think that it depends though. Like if you're using strength a lot of times and not using your skill, that's kind of different. But if you should try to use your. Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. That's the way that when I started up, man, we were getting fucking destroyed. Like you're a white belt, like, oh man, you're getting worked, and it's but it's good. Like you said, it's iron sharp as iron, and you kind of learn to be more resilient if you're a white belt that's kind of getting beat up a little bit, and then you appreciate when you start getting better and you're seeing kind of the other side as well.
I mean, shit. Let's be honest. Like when I first came into jiu-jitsu, the first day, I got crushed. And
who didn't,
dude? And I mean, dude, I got crushed. Well, because a lot of people don't get to roll sometimes now in their first days, right?
Yeah.
I rolled, and I remember I was like, I just was blown away by how effective it was. I was like, I got to do this. If I had gone into the gym and didn't get smashed like I did, I probably wouldn't have kept training. But because they put it on me, I was like, dude, this is so good. I got to do this again. I knew it worked.
Yeah,
absolutely. So keep the smashing. Just help people out along the way. So if you see them make a mistake, help them out with it. Be like, dude, I was able to smash you because you made this mistake. Or just kind of give them a pointer. Or again, just be the first person to help them up after training. So this way they know, look, yeah, like friggin' Carl's crushing me, but Carl also helps me back up after like he gets done putting the smash on me. So keep doing your thing, brother.
Heather R. How to pick up the pace as a smaller female with the new big guys who want to grab and muscle everything. I'm slightly afraid of getting hurt, so I just work on position.
Heather, so when you're in a situation when you're with someone that's significantly bigger and stronger, you don't really pick up the pace on them. This is what I think, because like when I go into even like me, when I go to a tournament, if I go up against or even when I'm rolling in the gym, if I go up against a really big, strong guy, I have to kind of like play very like cautiously and sort of give a little bit, because if I try to pick up the pace on them, a lot of times they squash me because they're stronger.
The pressure.
And, yeah, absolutely. So I tend to play a lot slower in the beginning. Now, if they get tired, I'll pick up the pace on them with movement, but a lot of times I have to be smart about it because they are bigger. And if I make a mistake, that size is going to come into play. Like, even like when I was at the Nogi Pans this past year, I remember the last match I was up against a guy who was about like 270 or something, and the dude was strong, and he's a good guy. And so when I was up against him, like I had to be careful because I kept feeling my body go off balance with his movement because he's so strong, right? And so I was like, I have to be smart about this. So I played a very cautious game plan because I had to. So I think that when you're rolling against some of those bigger, stronger guys, as long as you don't feel unsafe, like you don't feel like they're going too wild, keep doing your thing, focus on the position, and you'll learn kind of by rolling with them more, as long as they're being safe, you'll learn how to sort of work with them. You'll learn how to deal with them. Like the reason I got good at rolling with bigger people was because I would be in the gym, and sometimes it was the only partner I had to roll with was like a guy that was like 260, 270, and I was like 200 pounds at the time. So you just kind of, I had to get used to rolling with them, and you sort of figure things out the more you roll with those types of people.
I would say, Chewy, too, one thing you emphasize a lot, and if you and I ever roll, like it's always about grips, getting your grips first. So if I could suggest anything, Heather, I would say know what grips you want to get and get them first and go. I think that's huge, because I think whoever wins the grip battle wins the match, or gets their position. So get Chewy's grip. What's your grip thing called?
Get a grip.
Get a grip.
So
get a grip.
It's a basic grip fighting series. Two funny comments. Joe Clark, my business partner.
Where's he at?
He's trolling in. He goes, did you know having big muscles makes you worse at BJJ? So he read this article that I think that the Jiu-Jitsu Times posted, where some guy like some guy who does not lift weights was talking about how lifting weights is bad for you.
I'm gonna lose my mind.
And I was like, this guy's like, he's just like some dude that doesn't like weightlifting, so he doesn't think anybody else should lift weights. Dude, there were so many bad claims, and then real quick, and then you can go on your rant too, because you're gonna go on a rant.
I'm gonna lose it.
Kenny, my buddy Kenny Dagenhart called me, "You're sensitive, Chewy." I know. On one of the comments recently in one of the videos, I got called a soft bitch. So I like calling myself, I'm the softest bitch in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. Go say it to his face. See what happens.
Yeah, that's right. So what's your rant on weight training?
So Joe and I actually were
from the physical.
We started talking about this, and we were just having a discussion. And like he said this question to me, I'm like, this is the most ridiculous question I've ever heard. Like I know like maybe old school, like back in the day, oh, Marcelo Garcia doesn't strength train or so and so does. All they do is jujitsu. I was like, look, there's only a few ways as a physical therapist that I know of that you're going to reinforce your body. Okay, so
By
if you're
reinforce, he means like make it stronger against injuries.
like build like an exterior like exoskeleton, so to speak, like armor. Okay, so you can't change your bone structure. You can't change your ligaments, how your ligaments work. That's just what you have, unless you tear it and you tear your ACL and they repair it surgically.
Okay.
The only way that you can strengthen, reinforce your body is strength training. You strengthen the muscles around the joints. You help them be more stable. You help them function more optimally. You help them, if they do get extended to an end range where you're getting ready to have your arm snap, you may have a little bit of strength there to stabilize and just give yourself just enough time to tap. I mean, if you don't strength train in some capacity, it doesn't mean you have to go heavy.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to like go
Yeah, you don't have
one
to be,
rep
you don't have
max
to
all
be
the
a
time.
freaking crazy power lifter.
But dude, some type of strength training, even if it's like body weight stuff, it's not going to be terribly difficult. But even like doing hand stands
Dips
or
and
whatever,
handstands
just
and like
different
a
shit.
good squat. I mean, yeah, there's so many ways to do it, and you're right. You don't have to go crazy.
You
I mean,
don't.
dude, for me, I mean, it's all relative, of course, but I
100%.
don't go crazy heavy anymore. Like I go where I get to, I go where I feel like I get the most bang for my buck.
Yeah.
Right. So I get strength, and at the same time, I get to work on form
Right.
and control of them with the weight, and I get that good middle ground where I'm not going as crazy heavy as I used to, but it honestly doesn't make any difference, and I actually feel better sometimes when I focus on like with some exercises. So for instance, like an RDL, I use RDLs to help my hamstring length because
100% beautiful.
because like because for instance in jiu-jitsu we typically have tight hip flexors, we have weak abdominals. You might think that we have strong abdominal muscles, but I think that a lot of jiu-jitsu guys are pretty weak in their abdominal area. Like they're like if they're standing straight, sure they can crunch, but I think they're fairly weak a lot of times. Where like say if you had to hold a plank, right,
Sure.
or something like that, they're pretty weak.
Well,
and then it ends up leading to short hamstrings, and they also have a lot of lower back stiffness and tightness.
Yep.
So if you strengthen the abdominal wall, and then if you focus on lengthening those hamstrings dynamically with a RDL, where you really focus on the eccentric loading,
100%.
and you like 3 to 4 second eccentric load, you're gonna first off you're gonna make that butt bigger because jiu-jitsu guys typically don't have any butts, and you need a butt strong muscle, and then you're working on lengthening that hamstring under load, which is going to be helpful because I can tell you right now, dude, like when I do some RDLs, and I don't do them crazy heavy, but I'll do that slow eccentric.
Yep.
And really focus on pushing that butt back and engaging those hamstrings. Dude, my knees feel amazing afterwards. It's like because my hamstrings are naturally shorter and tighter, they're just from lifestyle.
Sure.
They help so much.
It's a length tension relationship. You want a good balance between the muscle in the front of your thigh and the back of your thigh.
Yeah.
And so the eccentric load, like we actually did some stiff-legged. I don't do stiff-legged deadlifts very often at all.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I couldn't go all the way down to the floor because I'm a little tight.
Yeah.
So, but as I started doing them, everything was lengthening
Yeah.
actively, dynamically. I'm doing that really good activation. It's just a phenomenal way to, stretching, static stretching, just sitting there and stretching your hamstrings is great. It can be effective, and it is.
Sure.
But man, what a great way to modify and add another component to that. I mean,
Yeah.
but overall, if anybody tells you no matter what not to strength train, which I just want to make a point and be done with it, like they're incorrect. Like for injury prevention, range of motion is important, flexibility is important, but strength training is at the top, probably one to two things that you can do. Diet, exercise, but diet and like sleep, all that stuff's important, but strength training has got to be like top two.
Yeah, so you train jiu-jitsu for your so you train weight training, things like that, so you can keep doing jiu-jitsu.
100%, man. Whew, I got all fired up.
I know you did. It was fun. Ian Spooner, Chewy, do you or Eugene go to church? No, I don't go to church. I have I have beliefs, but I don't necessarily go to church.
I don't. I'm actually Jewish, but I would say I'm more spiritual. I don't know. My wife was a different religion, and we kind of, I think that's something that we would have to eventually, I think you just learn your path, and there's there's nothing wrong with, we have people at the gym that are very religious too, but I think it's just being accepting of what works for you.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if someone asked my weight. Chubbs Peterson. Old Ryan. He says, pretty sure Chewy is 6'2", 220. I'm about 6 foot, maybe 210 to 215,
Ooh,
give or take.
slimming up.
Well, the only
Slim McGee.
only time I'm like 220 is after like a night of or like a week of like eating food and stuff. You know, because honestly, my thing is I have a hell of a time keeping the weight off. Because I'm just naturally gain weight. Like I can easily get up to I'll get up to two. Like if I ate like I wanted to eat, I'd be 230. But like so I have to like really watch it because if I don't, like I first off I have a slow like my thyroid's a little low, have a slower metabolism, and so like if I don't watch it, dude, I'll just balloon up.
You getting old, son?
It's
All right.
it's always been that way, bro. Like I've always been able to balloon up, but it's like getting leaned out is my problem.
Yeah. Chewy, so there's some actually, they're asking a little bit about strength training, so let's talk about these.
Let's do a little strength training, and this
so
is what.
how
Hold
many?
on a second.
What's up?
Man? Friggin' trolls.
What,
I hate the internet. I'm gonna ban them.
interwebs. Okay, so let me go on this one real quick. I can't. Urquhart? I don't even know who that is. How many times a week do you recommend weightlifting?
How many times do I recommend?
What do you recommend? I'll say what I recommend.
So for me, like I play around with my. So here's the thing. I think that you have to. It depends on. Okay, if you're gonna do multiple things like jiu-jitsu and weight training. First off, if you're like jiu-jitsu for me, like I train differently on my weight training days than I do if I don't. And if you're training jiu-jitsu and you're weight training, if you're a novice on both of those things, they're probably going to be pretty damn taxing to your body. So you need to listen to what your body's telling you. And my weight training will vary from week to week. I have a plan that I follow, but at the same time, if my body's exhausted, I just say I need to rest. Like I just have to rest. It's the way it's have to be. So sometimes I don't follow according to plan. I'll sometimes miss a little bit because I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do some heavy squat. I don't want to do squats today. I just need to rest. You know, I'll do them later on. But typically speaking, I do something like 3 to 4 days a week, and it's not always just strict weight training. Like, so for instance, this week, I'll give you an example. I had a push-pull day on Sunday. On Monday, I did jiu-jitsu, then I did some animal drills. My buddy Ryan, he runs a website called GMB, Gold Medal Bodies. Really interesting guy. He's a judo black belt, jiu-jitsu. I think he's a blue belt now. He runs a website where they have these flexibility training and movement training stuff. He sent me one of the movement training like courses, and I've gone through it. I really like it, and so I'll do that stuff. And I did that for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, and I'm getting better at doing like the monkey stuff to the handstands. It's fun. And then on Wednesday, I did snatches, and then yesterday, Thursday, I didn't do any weight training. Tuesday I did snatches, and then I did I did my second push pull. I do two push pull days. I do a hip hinge day and then do a squat day right now. That's my plan. And so I'm gonna do my hinge day probably. I should have done it before, but I did snatches, so that kind of worked as like a leg drive type thing. So I'm gonna do my hip hinge day, which is gonna be some deadlifts and some other stuff on probably Sunday. So again, it varies. I'm not completely locked into a routine, but anyway, so that was my little ramble. So what do you got there, PT?
So here we go. For me personally, as middle 30s, I don't get to train.
I'm middle 30s too, man. I'm 34.
Yeah, but you get to train jiu-jitsu a lot more than I do.
True.
So I'm getting about, on average, 2 days a week, which is not quite enough jiu-jitsu for me. About 3 days a week has always been a sweet spot, but I try not to do any heavy lifting for me personally on days that I train jiu-jitsu, or I give it a good amount of spread. Like I'll weight train in the mornings, and then I'll train in the afternoons, kind of thing. Jiu-jitsu in the afternoon. So, but usually I'll do on days that I go do jiu-jitsu, I'll probably I would try to work out in the morning. So I'll do like a yoga. So my wife and I have been doing 3 to 4 days of weight training and 2 days of yoga, and then one rest day. So that's what we've been doing. So on a day like Tuesdays are my hard training days for jiu-jitsu. That's the day I'm doing yoga. I usually do Mondays. I do like a good leg day. And then Tuesdays I do jiu-jitsu, so I do yoga in the morning just to loosen up because I'm usually a little bit stiff from a hard training leg day. And then, I've got a couple other days there, but I try not to do anything super excessive. Or if it's something like that I don't use my muscles a lot in jiu-jitsu, I may do that.
Makes sense.
So for me, like 3 to 4 days a week, I probably do strength training right now. And then I do jiu-jitsu 2 days a week.
Cool.
So,
a couple super chat donations. Thank you, fellas or ladies. Might be lady. Strange TV says you're a big reason I'm still training. Thanks. You're welcome, and thank you so much for the blessing. And then got one from Luke Blackwell. Says, what is the most dangerous submission? That's an interesting question. I thought about this, and I think probably the most dangerous, if you will, submission. I think there's a couple of them I would say. Typically, to me, it's twisting ones. But I would say a Kimura is dangerous. We don't see it that way, but I think it's a pretty damn dangerous lock because of you're attacking such a mobile joint. And then, like an inside heel hook. Those are just outside heel hooks are nasty too, but that inside heel hook, it made it go straight to the knee. It's so friggin' gnarly. Inside heel hook and I think a Kimura. The reason they get in the Kimura a lot of times, again, we get more accustomed to it, so it's not as bad, And so, but I mean, if you were to really rip that sucker, holy moly, man! Like, I mean, that person's shoulder's destroyed. And then with the inside heel hook, I mean, an outside heel hook, if you do it right, like you'll get a little pop in the foot. It gets to the knee eventually, but it's not too bad. I've had it done on me, and I'm okay, and I've had some pops. But an inside heel hook, man, like when you get that sunk in, bro, it just feels like knee destroyer city. Like it feels so terrible. What you as an PT have a unique way of looking at the body. Like you can see things that because it's funny. Like Eugene can look at someone and be like, yeah, but his hip's messed up. His shoulder looks a little jacked up because he can see these little things, right? Like look at that little tilt there. When you look at submissions with your PTIs, what submissions do you think are pretty gnarly? Some of the worst.
Hey man, it depends on how you frame the question. Because if it's knowledge based, because some people don't know.
Let's talk about the submission, the potential for like really long lasting injury. So like basically like if they were to take the submission too far, you're like, even just a little bit too far, you're probably not going to be the same person.
So
again.
Inverted heel hook, 100%. Is devastating, and part of the reason why that is the movement. The ankle is stronger in one direction versus the other, meaning the inner part of the ankle is really, really strong. So and also the way the bone structure is, you're not gonna have a injury into the ankle. It's more likely going to go the resistance or the torque is going to translate up to the
so the ankle will hold up strong, and then that force just moves up to the knee.
Force just moves up the knee, the kinetic chain kind of up the knee, and then the knee is vulnerable there because your ACL's there, your meniscus and all that stuff, and that torquing movement is going to blow that ACL out. It's going to tear the meniscus, tear probably other stuff.
Yeah.
So the reason that's so dangerous is because it's devastating, but number two, you don't feel it. There's like a breaking point.
Yeah.
Once that breaking point's very quick. Like you can sit there and eat an inverted or that inverted toe hold or heel hook, I guess.
Yeah.
But once it goes past that threshold, you start. It basically doesn't give you any time.
Yeah.
The thing about the Kimura. You kind of feel it coming on.
There's a lot more tightness.
You feel it. You're like, okay, I've got some time to tap, and you kind of start feeling pressure and stretch and pain, and you usually tap at that point. Again, if somebody cranks on it really fast, it's going to be just as devastating.
Yeah.
But the thing about the heel hook, it's quick. Once you get to that level, like your knee's holding, and then all of a sudden it tears.
Yeah, and we're talking about the inside heel hook, because the outside heel hook, like it's a little different. I feel like when you get someone that knows how to put an outside heel hook in, there's actually a lot of like pain and pressure that comes before the break.
Yeah, and you feel it in your ankle too, and your ankle has more movement as well, inward, which is the position, inversion versus eversion, which is the way that inverted toe hold.
Okay.
So it's just basically there's less movement in a certain direction. There's stronger ligaments on the inside of the ankle. That force translates up to the knee. The knee is not strong in that aspect, and then the knee gets blown out.
And so another one, I'll throw this out there, dude. Is the what is it called? The lockdown. That is a meniscus destroyer. I've seen several guys put it on and they don't know how to use it, so they just extend the leg, and then the other person on the top doesn't know how to defend it, and all of a sudden.
So what it's doing is basically tractioning the knee. You're taking the knee, you're kind of separating the top and the bottom of the knee, and then usually with the way your legs are kind of surrounding their leg, it's twisting. And so you're like tractioning, twisting, and that meniscus just gets crushed. So the way that you're going to tear meniscus in most cases is a rotational or twisting type movement. If you pivot wrong, shift wrong, like rotate on the leg, twists, that cartilage just gets torn. So that usually it's a twisting type of injury. So, yeah.
Fair enough. Got a question here from Martin Colin. Again, thank you for your donation, brother. Your blessings.
Thank you.
Best submission to humble a wrestler. So I'll say like the submissions that have worked for me, like traditionally. I mean, I've done other stuff. Traditionally, when I've been up against big wrestler types, typically, if I can get to their back and get the choke, right? Because again, it doesn't matter because a lot of times they're so damn big and strong. If I can get around to their back and get the choke. But a lot of times I've found that getting up under their hips, like when you watch like a wrestler, wrestlers hate when people get up under their hips because you're getting up under their center of gravity. Leg locks can be a great tool for that. So because you can shoot up under people from half guard and things like that, and they have a lot of trouble stopping it. That said, if you're long and lanky, then you know,
I think we're
like Chad.
reset our thing. Sorry, guys.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yep, we're gonna fix it. Sorry about that.
But if you're you know, usually chokes, getting up under with leg locks and things like that is good. I'm not sure how much you heard, but leg locks I think are really good to use because you get up under the hips of the wrestler, especially if like from half guard and things like that.
Yeah.
But if you're long and lanky, then you can play full guard. Like I know Chad, like Chad has chewed up many a wrestler by just basically playing guard and armbar him and trying him because. You know, you have to kind of think about your body. It's like tools, right? You have certain tools in your toolbox, and you got to figure out how we can, you know, use this. And so when you're going up against, say, like a wrestler, if you're long and lanky, they use their head a lot and they pressure forward, and they'll walk right into a triangle. I know that, like me, like my wrestler game, like put me in triangles over and over and over again. So you can look for that if you're lanky. And then if you're not lanky, maybe you think about using like things to get up under the wrestler, like leg locks and different things like that. And the last thing I would say is, if you don't feel comfortable going for the, you know, for the leg locks and things like that, and obviously guillotines when they're going for shots, of course.
That's all. I was
Yeah, of
thinking.
course that. Sweep them. Get on top of them. Learn how to get on top of a wrestler. If you learn how to, that's honestly what I do most often is I sweep the wrestler, put them where they don't want to be, and then you just basically crush them from there because they don't have the experience there, and then they're just their energy meter, man. Like if it was like a video game, they had the energy meter, it just goes into to zero, and they've got nothing left, and so you're out positioning them. So I think that's really helpful.
Yeah, I think you end up on, if you don't want to go takedown for takedown with them, obviously they're going to be better at takedowns for the most part. You know, for me, never wrestling and just being more of a jiu-jitsu guy.
Well, you've beaten a lot of wrestlers with your freaking loop choke.
Yeah, well, because they put their wrestler. I mean, in wrestling,
That
you
head forward
don't
thing.
have you don't have to worry about chokes. You know, so you look at, they're going to put their head in places we're not supposed to, where they're not going to account for, okay, is one arm in or both arms out or both arms in, you know, between the legs. They're not going to account for that because it's habit. You're just trying to go for the takedown. And so you're going to use your head. You're going to drive with that head, and you have to really be mindful because a lot of times they'll just put their head right in your arm, right in the pocket, and then as soon as they come in and they press forward, you just cinch it up and get your angle.
Chubbs Peterson said, "Hey Chewy, when can we get those long sleeve shirts like I have? Like this is like the baseball style shirt. I thought I had them already up there. If I don't, I'll make sure they're up on the Shopify store for the jiu-jitsu. We got all the jiu-jitsu shirts are there. They're in stock. Here's the one. It says this is from." I think it's Jeremy Blackwell. Says Chewy, tomorrow is my first BJJ comp. I paid a bunch of money to have random dudes beat up on me, and it's all your fault. I just want to say thank you. Man, what if you do the beating though? Like, what if you go out there and you beat some random guys up? You know what I mean? So, man, it'll be fun. It'll be. I'll tell you this for all you guys, because I think I saw several of them, and it's people that are having their very first competition coming up, and they're like wondering what's the best advice. I told this to my students because we have a competition coming up next weekend. No expectation on the result. Your goal is like when it's your first competition. Go out there 100% to win. It should always be your goal to win, but at the same time, it's your first time in the fire. Okay, like again, there's so many high-level competitors that basically just got crushed their first competition. Like, I mean, me, like you guys know me and you guys watch my videos and stuff. I got crushed my first time wrestling in a competition, like destroyed. And that's okay. Your first time, though, is about getting out there and doing it, to feel what it's like to be out there with that intensity and to see what it's like and then to go all out. Now, sometimes people do phenomenally their first tournament. They kill it. And then sometimes people don't. But that's okay, because what happens is you walk away from that situation going, that's what I'm getting ready for. It makes me almost think about like the U.S. military. I'm a history geek. I'll be quick about this, I promise. like the U.S. military has a really bad track record as far as the beginning of a war. We go in and we just don't do very well in the beginning. Like World War II, we didn't go in there like just killing it. We were like really like then we hobbled these guys together, threw them in there, and we're like, nah, this ain't working so well, but we got better.
Yeah.
We learned from it. Even in Iraq, I remember my uncle, he was when we went over to Iraq in like 2001. I remember, he went over to Iraq, I think in like 2000 or Afghanistan 2001. He went over to Iraq, I guess, in 2003 or something like that. And he was a part of this unit. They had these things called strikers, and it was this like lightly armored like troop carrier to get them in and out of places. Okay, and they had this whole idea of how it was going to work. Well, all of a sudden those IEDs, man, it wasn't good because all of a sudden you're getting out there and it's basically like a freaking rolling coffin. Yeah. Because it's like they had no armoring on the bottom and they would just blow. I mean, even if you did, those things will blow those things up sky high. So they learn from it and they don't play the same tactics anymore, right? So it's the same thing. Like you don't really know until you're there. Like Mike Tyson, I think he was the one that said it, right? Everybody's got a plan until they get punched.
Right.
Everybody's got this idea of what the tournament's going to be like until all of a sudden they're in the middle of rolling with a guy that doesn't know who you are, you don't know them, and they're going 100% trying to choke you. Things change. But knowing what that's like is really eye-opening because then you're like, okay, so this is what I'm training for. Let me turn up the intensity and let's do it again. So get out there and do it. No expectation on the outcome. The goal is to get out there and do it because most people don't have the balls to get out there and compete, even if they want to. Some people don't want to.
Yeah.
But some people that want to, they don't get out and do it because they're too afraid of what's going to happen. So just get out there and do the damn thing.
The one thing that's kept me, when I first started competing was just trying to have a game plan. Just think of what you're going to do. As soon as you slap hands, boom. Just think of what you're going to do. Concentrate on that. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. Do that to the best of your abilities. And like Chewy said, don't have expectations. But that always put me at ease, knowing that I had a plan in place that I was going to try to execute. That was always, ideal. That gave me some peace of mind, at least.
Yeah. So my buddy Kenny, he says, serious question. And he's like, you know me, I don't read. I kind of want to start reading. What's a good book I should read? So Kenny, reading, man, is one of those things where it's like, reading's like anything else. It's a skill, right? So especially when we don't read very much, like we lose it a little bit. So, but it helps if you get started with something you like. Is there something you'd want to like work on, learn, whatever? Because I read so much random stuff, and so it's it can change. And when someone said The Prince, and that's like the book by like Niccolo Machiavelli, and I'm not a fan of that book. I'm like,
I've never read it.
I just don't like the way that again, I understand there's some human nature there. I just don't really like the way that. Again, the idea of treating people in such a way, it's not really my thing. So,
I would say I don't read as many books as Chewy, but something that interests you, like I like that David Goggins book. That was awesome. Have you read that?
No, I haven't read it yet.
It's really inspirational kind of.
I'm probably gonna listen to it because
that's what I did.
Because he it's on Audible and he reads it and then with guys like that that's where I want to because for instance I Extreme Ownership, another Navy SEAL guy.
That's a good one too.
I listened to it because I didn't want to read it,
right?
And I liked it way more because I'm hearing Jocko and Leif who both they're talking like this all the time, but that's the way they talk and they read their stories off. So I was like, this is pretty cool because they're basically telling you war stories and then telling about it. It was a fun listen.
Yeah, I think it's just whatever you really. I liked that mindset book was really good. It's an older book. I know I told you about that before. Just because I felt like in some aspects I had a fixed mindset and having a growth mindset is just being able to evolve and learn. And so I thought that was a really good book just for self-awareness.
I just finished Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature. So he's the one that did laws of 48 laws of power and all that stuff. He did one laws of human nature that was pretty good.
Nice.
I read Sapiens a while ago.
I've got that on my queue to read.
Sapiens was pretty good. And then
that Jordan Peterson book was good.
Which one? 12 Rules?
Yeah, 12 Rules.
I read 12
Rules.
It was good.
So you got to really pay attention though, man, because he is so wordy.
Well, a lot of times, I think of those kind of books where, because for instance, I read a lot of older stuff like Henry Thoreau and Emerson and all those guys. And when you read them, you read through it, and then you got to kind of go back because it sometimes you just don't pick up on some of it because of the language and the wording or just because of where you're at. And so when you come back and read it again, you're like, okay, it makes more sense now. So, but Kenny, I'll think of some recommendations for you, brother, and I'll shoot them your way. So, so guys, I think that's it. I think we've been on here for a while,
Yeah.
and we've been chatting with you guys, and I thank you guys for joining us on this kind of last minute Friday
Yeah,
podcast.
awesome. Any announcements we got?
Announcements. So, let's see.
You have a seminar coming up?
I got a seminar in Cincinnati. So if you guys are in the Cincinnati area, I got that coming up. We've only got 15, I think 15 or 15, I think it's like 15 spots available because we're doing it at a gym. And then the guy said he's got 15 extra spots.
Sweet.
So 15 spots for it. And then
We've got.
I'm trying to think.
What else?
We got the Patreon. We're getting ready with the Patreon, guys. If for those of you guys that are already subscribed to it, or if you're interested, we're getting ready to. I literally have hours upon hours of rolling and like hanging out and stuff like that. Just this footage that really doesn't have a place for anything. Like we have video upon like hours of video,
Behind the scenes stuff.
and I don't know what to do with it because it's not really a normal YouTube video, but at the same time, it's kind of cool stuff. So I think we're gonna put some of that stuff on the back end of the Patreon. So if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, if you subscribe to it, it's like $7 and you'll get that stuff if you want it, plus some extra podcast stuff that we do.
Patreon.com /the Chewjitsu podcast.
You have to put it in that way because we're rated like 18 or older, so you can't
I think
just
we
search
rated
it.
that ourselves, so I don't know. Because I was like, why can't I find us if I was just searching? And so,
Yeah.
But yeah, we have video, some video stuff, some video podcasts, some after the podcast, before the podcast conversations.
Yeah. I think
Extras with some of the guests.
Yeah, I got extra with the guests. Cool. So yeah, I think it's it. So that's all that's going on for me. And then guys, if you have any other questions, talk to us.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.